Shut up, Evan. Shut up, Evan. Shut up, Evan.
I like meme making as a art form.
I mean, you coveted that whole game.
Thanks.
You are the memer.
Thank you. Well, thank you for providing content for meming. Are we good?
We had a love fest. Sorry, it hasn't even started yet.
I'm having the weirdest hair day today where like it started just going in places it's never before gone. Anyway, but good? Okay. Thank you. Brittany Snow.
Evan.
So excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, I want to start by asking you something. This is a tweet that I saw yesterday that really caught my attention.
Ooh.
And I was like, I need to ask Brittany about it. So Joyce Carol Oates, she wrote, possible 1,000 times in my life, I have been asked, what is the book that changed your life, or what is the film that changed your life? Are these serious questions? Exactly how does a film change one's life? If your life is so insubstantial, so fragile, so haphazard that a movie can change it, then another movie, seen next week, will change it again. She deleted this tweet, by the way. I wonder why. But what do you make of that sort of vantage point of the brain shouldn't be so malleable to allow a film to change your life because then it's just going to be changed by another film? It's basically, she's kind of taking away the idea that film is meaningful for people.
I can understand the point of view, but I do feel like, oh gosh, this sounds so cheesy, but I do feel like when you watch a movie, you're not necessarily seeing characters, you're seeing yourself. I think Julianne Moore said a quote that was brilliant that I'm butchering. But what I think is so great about movies is that you have a new thought that maybe you didn't have before about yourself or an idea. And so I would imagine that can change your life, one idea. In my life, I guess, people have come up to me and said that some of my movies have made them think differently about their preferences and things like that. I think that's a huge honor and totally not something that I thought would be a part of the movie when I was doing them. But I've definitely seen movies that have, I'm going to say a really, really crazy one, but when I saw Requiem for a Dream, I saw it too young, and I was going through some like mental health stuff, a different type of addiction than what they're on, like heroin and meth and crack and stuff. But it definitely changed my life. I was rolling around on the floor. I was so disturbed by it. So I beg to differ, I guess.
Yeah.
I do think it changed my life because I knew how bad it could get.
Yes.
And so I don't know if that's malleable necessarily. I just think that's perspective.
But I think it's this idea that people go see things now and sort of make it their personality and sort of try on personalities, if you will, and the disposability of that. And basically like, this week I'm obsessed with this thing and this is going to be my whole life. And next week there's going to be a new thing that will come in and this will be my whole life, which is, I think, the performance of fandom, less than it is something like watching Requiem for a Dream at a young age and having it be like life-altering.
Don't you feel like that's just generations and generations of people from obsessed with the Beatles to Elvis to, you know, whatever rock star you were into to boy bands? I mean, I think that the thing about now is that it's so fleeting and ephemeral, and where everybody is just switching their minds so suddenly because there's the next greatest thing coming out or the next fandom that's about to blow up. But I do think that sort of idolization has always been there, and you can form your personality to fit like the person that you're looking up to. I think that's just how life goes.
I literally formed my personality off of watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, me too.
Oh my God.
I could go on forever.
Wow.
I was her for Halloween 3 years in a row.
Wow.
I just didn't even care. I had the Trapper Keeper. I had the notepads. I was obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I didn't like Angel as much. I understand. Do you remember the silent episode?
Season 4, episode 10, Hush. Yes.
We're real ones.
I love shows like Buffy that it's 20 years since the show was off the air, 20 plus. And yet when you meet another Buffy fan, you're kind of like, okay, it says something, we share a sensibility.
The way that they did story, too, was so interesting. The arcs of these characters. And also, they kind of, like, leaned into the magical element of it all that that I think just really captivated people and did the like duality of that really well. I mean, everybody loves. It's nobody gets enough of like you're trying to be in high school, but you're also have this job of being a superhero, a witch, a vampire slayer. I mean, fill in the blank. Teen Wolf, anything.
Yes. So you were consuming Buffy. It sounds like you were a pop culture girly before you really like found your way into the business.
I mean, I was a WB girl. I couldn't get enough of that little frog. I watched Charmed. I watched Dawson's Creek. I mean, that was my time. I wanted to be on Buffy the Vampire Slayer so badly. I begged to audition for Michelle Trachtenberg. Her part on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I didn't even get to audition, and I was devastated. I think I was doing American Dreams at the time. I hope that was the reason I didn't get to audition for it. But I one time was introduced to Sarah Michelle Gellar at a hotel bar, even though I was like 16 or 17, with my friend David Semmel, who had worked with her, and he was the producing director on American Dreams, and I completely blacked out. Not from alcohol, but from shock and meeting my idol.
Yeah. She is a substance unto herself that like renders you, incapable of speech.
She is mother.
She is mother. Yeah, she really is.
We all know this now.
At that time, it's like when you would watch something on the WB, I think the unique thing that doesn't exist today, because they would do those commercials where they would bring the stars from all the various shows onto the back lot and kind of film like this, like, it was like a promo for the WB essentially. So you'd get like Shannon Doherty and Joshua Jackson and Sarah Michelle Gellar
in slow motion.
Yes,
and
Jessica Biel. Yeah, and it's like I feel like Netflix needs to bring that back and accumulate the stars from all these shows, put them together, and do some sort of just crossover or something.
I love that idea. I mean, my whole childhood, I would go to the set of Seventh Heaven all the time and hang out with them, and it was. I mean, I think they shot at the WB Ranch, and I just thought, wow, guys, you guys have really made it. I mean, who cares about NBC, which was the network I was on? I wanted to be on WB.
Meanwhile, I imagine a lot of them aspire to be on NBC because this is like, I was thinking about this. It's like you're on an NBC show, and American Dreams had so much hype in the lead up to that. I think American Dreams shot in 2001 and aired in 2002.
Okay.
Because I remember the lead up to the show premiering. And I'm wondering if you remember before American Dreams premiered feeling that pressure of we are fashioning the next great successful show.
I had no idea. I mean, I did the pilot when I was 15. We started the show when I was 16. I did know that it was for some reason in my 16-year-old little brain, I knew that it was very cool that we had a packet of information about American Bandstand and what the year 1964 meant. And even as a kid, I thought to myself, this is really rare. I have never seen a pilot script like this. And I think we all knew that it was really interesting that we were going to be in a different time period and there were people going to be coming on playing iconic stars. I mean, Marvin Gaye was played by Usher.
Yep.
Dionne Warwick was played by Ashanti. I mean, that was such a great concept. But I never know what I'm doing in terms of what people think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm completely clueless to it. Is that weird?
No, but I imagine it's interesting. It's a little inside baseball, but I do think it's relevant because the same can be said of Sex and the City season 1. Same as Buffy as well, which is that typically when a show is made, or how it used to be rather, was that a show would be airing its first season and they would still be in production on the back half of season 1. So people would start to know vibrationally how people were feeling about it. It wouldn't necessarily mean they would make any changes, but it would give people a sense of like, this is how the show is being received, this is what's working, this is what's not. But interestingly, with Hunting Wives, it's like you make this thing, you finish the job. There was no discussion of it even being something that would continue on at the time.
Oh no, we thought we weren't going to get picked up at all. We thought that no one was going to see it. We were sort of freaked out when Lionsgate and Starz separated that it was just going to get dropped and lost. So there was a long period of time where we sort of said, well, that was fun. No one's going to see it. And then it was sold to Netflix and it came out 2 months later. But it all happened really fast. We went from 0 to 100 within a couple months.
And what do you credit that to? Because I have to say, like, I'm someone who I try and keep, my finger on the pulse. And I remember hearing people starting to talk about it and in the beginning thinking, this must be like a derivative Real Housewives. I thought it was a reality show in the beginning.
Right.
I thought it was like this new version where they were like attempting to do the Real Housewives of Texas, but not branding it as such. And I always know when something gets to a point where it's unavoidable for me. I keep seeing enough people whose opinion I care about that I'm like, I can no longer willfully reject this, which is what brought me into the pilot. And then immediately I was like, oh, I'm hooked. I'm in.
Oh, great.
But I'm wondering when you started to feel that. And my feeling is this is a genuine word of mouth phenomenon.
The TikToks and the Instagrams and the memes and stuff like that, I think that really added a lot to it. And also, I mean, it's just breaking so many rules in so many different ways. And it's kind of digging into that like little political satire that we need right now, where everyone's sort of doing that euphoria thing. We're like, is this play about us?
When we record this, you will have been on set, but as of right now, you have not yet. And I imagine it's particularly exciting coming back together with this group of people where you made something in silo together that I imagine you all believed in, but there was a time you didn't even know if it would see the light of day.
Definitely.
And now it has. And I'm wondering what that's like for you as an actor re-entering this world, knowing what it's become since you first made it.
I hope it doesn't take away the magic of when people start drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. I hope that we can maintain that sort of chemistry that we had where we were just having so much fun, not thinking that many people were going to see it, because it sort of seemed like we had a secret that no one else knew about, and I hope that maintains. But now that it's so ubiquitous, we're sort of hoping for the best, that we can live up to that pressure, and I hope we don't let it seep into our acting.
You want something to be a great success and you want something to break through into the mainstream, but there's like the idea of like wanting to keep the best kept secret.
Because when you've seen things when they started understanding that they were really relevant, and it changes the tone.
Totally.
And you start being like, wow, they know that they're...
Yes.
And it's not like they don't try as hard. It's just almost like the jokes are different or the satire is a little bit different because they get it a little bit more, or it's self-aware.
And I will say it doesn't always necessarily diminish qualitatively the product, but I would say a great example of what you're speaking to for me is with Sex and the City, when there's season 1 and 2 of Sex and the City, particularly season 1, where it's a lot grittier of a show. You get chain smoking Carrie, and you get a much more gruffer Carrie. And then with 3 and 4 and beyond, the show sort of softens some of its edges. And again, I don't think it's worse off as a result, but it definitely is aware. You get the sense that like it is now producing a cultural phenomenon.
Yes.
But I imagine too, like it's tough. Like this is a challenging industry to begin with, and so to have something like this, I imagine too, like wanting to take a moment and be like, yeah, like I found something that is working, and I think that's. Are you able to allow that to seep in?
I've gone through a lot of things where I kind of thought maybe I'm just always going to be sort of that one type of actress that does, pretty well and has been around for a long time, and you never really know. And so I am so grateful that this has become what it has become, and people have watched it and love it and have reactions to it, and it evokes something in them. But I also have to really keep in mind, and this is, spawning off of what you were just saying, that we don't kind of get bogged down with people's perceptions or if people like us or what people's opinions are, because then we start doing the show or the characters or the acting for them, for like if people are liking it or if we're not too disruptive and we don't want to ruffle any feathers. And I think what's so great about the show specifically is that we sort of had a I don't give a fuck attitude, and we weren't doing it for anyone necessarily. And if we start to move that, or if I start to believe what people are saying a little bit, then I think we lose that transgressive sort of quality to the show. And so I have to be like, I'm really, really grateful, but I also can't believe the bullshit either. I can't be like, oh, I know.
Totally.
For lack of a better movement.
Do you sort of see the long tail of a career in acting in Hollywood as sort of just a road of many ups and downs, and right now this is an up moment, and you try and sustain the up moment for as long as you can. Is that sort of your perspective?
Definitely. I mean, I think because I've been in the business for so long and I've had those ups and downs a lot of times, there's a duality of being extremely grateful and also, understanding that I need to really be present in this moment, because you never know where a career can take you. And that's why I'm so grateful to have a long career, because it will go up and down. And that down might come, and that doesn't make me any less of an actor. It just makes me, and the society changes and things change. And so I'm very, very grateful for now. I'm not sure if I didn't have like a resignation about it. I think I just was, I guess like things kind of got a little tricky, and I was met with a lot of, people didn't know what to do with me, because as being a child actor for so long, people kind of saw me in one way. Even maybe I saw myself in a certain way. And then to become an adult and become a woman and take different roles, I felt like I was in a cruise liner, and I was to change my perception and to change my career and to have people take me as a woman and not a kid actor. It was like moving a whole cruise ship. It was like going so slowly. And so I feel like maybe the cruise ship is sort of like turned a little bit, but it took a really long time. And I was met with a lot of people who said I couldn't, actually.
I think that's actually why Sophie on Hunting Wives is such a, not only a great role, but a great role for you, because I think it takes a trope that we've seen you play and subverts it in such an interesting way. And in doing that, showcases your breadth as a performer. But in looking at, you're welcome. But in looking at that time when you were put forward for a lot of roles where she's the likable one, the popular one, the cute girl, was there a point in your life when you said, I really want to move away from this, play against this, or slowly shift to this? Or how much consciousness was there around the direction of like the kind of roles that you were playing?
I mean, I wish I could say that it was strategic and that I had this master plan, but what I was frustrated by is, I think, and this happens to a lot of women, and it's not just me, of course, but I think if you look and act and talk a certain way and you have done things like this in your past, and you are, for lack of a better word, just bubbly and happy, then you are naive, you don't have a great intellect, you are always happy. There is no depth to the reasons that you've become this way. And I always say, like, the greatest acting I've ever done is to develop a character when I was a kid that was really perky and bubbly and happy, because that's how I dealt with what was going on underneath. And I think that's why I directed Parachute and wrote it as well about my early 20s, is because I wanted to show people that people wear masks all the time, and I was going through a lot in my early 20s and teenage years, and there was so much depth and going on under there that I would never have let people see. And I think those were the types of roles that I wanted to play, that sort of broke and subverted that archetype of the girl who was blonde and happy and had it all together, but really just like how everyone knows that's not always necessarily true, and you shouldn't be put in that box just because that's what you've done before, that's what you look like, and no one should ever have that. So I think I was excited to play things that weren't just one note in a lot of ways, and that's what I was trying to do with the cruise ship, is be like, there's rooms, there's floors, there's lots of floors on the cruise.
There's a whole deck.
Yeah, there's an elevator going up and down.
So this film, Parachute, you wrote and directed the film, correct? And this was a departure for you. It was the first time you'd written and directed a full-length feature, correct? And you talk about there's a connection between your real-life experiences and this film. And so I'm wondering, what was that experience like for you?
Parachute, there's no like acting or involved in the storyline of what I went through. It's about a mental health struggle and addiction, with eating disorders, anxiety, depression, also alcoholism, with some of the other characters. And I just sort of wanted to show like what was happening with me and a bunch of my friends and people that I cared about that had nothing to do with Hollywood necessarily, but this was what was going on. And I think it was extremely cathartic, but it was also it was like therapeutic in a lot of ways, because I was sort of going through the process of understanding what I was going through by doing it in a very removed way, by directing someone else playing me. And I was very proud of myself, not only because I got to direct it and I thought I did an okay job, but because I could see myself as like a 22, 23-year-old girl, and I just really wanted to give her a hug. And so that's why I wanted to do the movie, is for all those girls that didn't have a movie like that, like I should have had at that time.
So, in addition, you're the co-founder of the Love is Louder movement, a project by the nonprofit Jed Foundation, dedicated to addressing issues which are brought up in this film, such as bullying, body image, discrimination, and depression. You also co-founded the nonprofit September Letters for Mental Health Awareness. And I think it's so interesting. I mean, thinking about Parachute, but also these organizations as well, this idea that you want to use the platform, both of your exposure as a public figure, but also in the work that you make.
I don't ever think it was an option for me. I mean, I always thought that there was so much more to why we're in this business than just making it about ourselves, or myself in this case. I felt like when I was going through some things when I was a teenager, I didn't have, and it was a different time. It was, the 90s and the early aughts. There weren't a lot of people talking about their mental health, or if they were, it was definitely in the lens of like alcoholism or drug use or things like that. But the more nuanced things that weren't spoken about definitely weren't advertised, especially by, women that I looked up to. And so now that is definitely changing, and I'm really glad for that. But I always wanted to make sure that the things that I went through were not for nothing. And I would say that to myself even when I was going through this, like, if I can just get through this, hopefully this will be used for good in some way. So I made a promise to myself that if I did, I would be able to speak to that.
Can I ask you a question as an interviewer? It's like there are so many instances in which, like, I want to ask a guest about questions around, like, a lot of the topics here, like thinking about something like bullying, for instance, right? It's like, I was bullied in school. I was a bully. It's had an impact on my...
bully?
I was a bully.
Oh, no. Why?
I'm not proud of it.
Oh, my God.
I think as a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
I think I had a really strong... It pissed me off, and it still does, that being gay was something that people would make... I did not understand why me being gay... put me as a subject of ridicule. Like, that didn't make sense to me. And I think rather than it confuse or upset me, I channeled that through my rage at being like,
Totally.
You're not going to call me a faggot. It's like, well, actually, go ahead and call me a faggot and watch what I do to you in return. So I would say I did bully, but I felt provoked. If that caveat helps at all. But needless to say, I bring it up to say it's like these things, they impact who we are in our adult lives. And you mentioned the fact that, like, when you were young, you weren't hearing actors talk about it. But I wonder, it's like, maybe they weren't talking about it because they weren't asked about it. And I wonder if it's incumbent on interview subjects to ask about these things. But my roadblock at times is not wanting to delve too much into people's personal lives, in recognizing that actors don't have an obligation to offer more than their performances. So I guess I wonder, like, do you feel sometimes then or today that you wish the subjects that you were asked about had more heft, or allowed you to talk about some of the things that your work with these organizations, like the work that you're doing on that side of things, that this could spawn more conversations related to, for instance, the mental health crisis we find ourselves in?
I don't know if I was necessarily ready when I was in my late teens, early 20s to talk about that. Definitely not. And I do think it was a different time where talking about what was going on in your mind and being sad was kind of met with judgment in terms of, I don't know, making yourself seem like, oh, what was me, and things like that. And that still actually exists today, where a lot of people are like, why do you have to complain about anything? And I definitely understand that, because I am very privileged in a lot of ways. So I do get that, but at the same time, I do feel like it was a different time. Like when I was a teenager in my early 20s, Julia Roberts wasn't being asked what struggles she was going through necessarily. Right. She was being asked about her performances, and you didn't really know about the people that were movie stars. You saw them as movie stars, and you saw them very removed. And we definitely grew up in that time where that was actually coveted. Yes. Where you looked up to them, but you weren't one of them. And now with social media and everybody being so open, it's kind of merged. And so I do feel like it's a marking of a different generation, which I'm really proud about, because I think that now people can understand that there's no hierarchy in a way. We're all just people dealing with similar instances, whatever job you have. And obviously being a movie star and being Julia Roberts has its perks, but that doesn't mean that people don't go through things.
Well, I think it's interesting too, thinking about Parachute, because it's like, I also think that there are a lot of actors who are able to channel things that they want to discuss, whether it be things that they've come up against in their lives, adversity, what have you, and say, I'm not necessarily wanting to sit down in an interview and talk about my experience with X, Y, and Z, but I did make this film, or I acted in this project that is speaking about, an issue that is central to me or my interests, or something that I think audiences should be exposed to. So I think it's interesting, that balance of like putting it in the work and then also being out promoting the work, and then the ways in which those two things can dovetail. I think that's really interesting. I want to read you a recent quote. This is relevant to this conversation.
Okay.
So I'm really into this. The New York Times has this interview podcast called The Interview. And Jennifer Lawrence just appeared on the show. And she said this, and I've been really... sometimes I hear a quote from an actor, and I just am snapping my fingers.
I know what you're about to ask me, and this is... Okay, yeah.
She said, I think I'm in a complicated recalibration because I'm an artist. With this temperature and the way things can turn out, I don't want to start putting people off to films and to the art that could change consciousness or change the world because they don't like my political opinions. I want to protect my craft so that you can still get lost in what I'm doing. And if I can't say something that's going to speak to some kind of peace or lowering the temperature or some sort of solution, I don't want to be a part of the problem. I don't want to make the problem worse. I try to express my politics through my work. A lot of my movies coming out from my production company are expressions of the political landscape, and that's how I feel like I can be helpful. And it made me think about Parachute, or the short film you starred in, Red, White, and Blue, or even Hunting Wives, which I think are all examples of channeling art with a message that has something to say. Yeah, I'm wondering what your response to that quote is.
I really did prescribe to that type of thinking for a long time, maybe to make myself feel better, where I was like, I like that I'm not really that well known, so I can kind of go into my characters and get lost in them, and people don't necessarily know a lot about myself. But I think now that I've gotten older, I know that I choose characters, and I know that I choose parts that speak to me, that I know that I can play, because I have some substitution and I have some admiration for. I have to believe in these characters. I have to understand their justifications. And so I choose characters that are in my wheelhouse of a facet of my personality. And so because I choose these characters, I stand by the fact that I have to adhere to the message that they're saying in some way, or understand why it's relevant. And with Red, White, and Blue, like, I knew that there was going to have an onslaught of people having opinions about it, but I believe in that. And so that's why I'm able to do that character. I would hope that someone who didn't believe in that message wouldn't be playing that character. So I do think that there's, in a way, yes, you're playing people that are facets of something that you morally and fundamentally believe in.
Sophie is such an interesting character to me, and related to this conversation, in that Sophie makes a lot of bad decisions throughout season 1 of Hunting Wives, and yet I don't know if this is the written character or your portrayal or simply the Brittany Snow sensibility. I feel like when I watch it, I'm making the bad decisions with her. There's a visceral feeling you feel many times, because Sophie makes a few.
Oh yeah, people were so angry with me.
But I think that anger is, it's like the protagonist who makes bad decisions. And I would make a connection here between Sophie and Carrie Bradshaw. I think Carrie Bradshaw is a character who made really just one bad decision, but is kind of seen through a lot of the Gen Z reappraisal of Carrie as like a bad person because of a bad decision that she made.
I'm a Carrie stan. I also think she was kind of a bad friend.
She was a bad friend, but there are just as many instances of her being a good friend as being a bad friend.
And I do argue that that's, morally a gray thing that most women should be. Like, there shouldn't be like this black and white. You're either a bad friend or a good friend. It can exist in both. But I do think that she made a couple bad decisions.
Fair enough.
But I'm very much liking the fact that you think that I'm in the genre of Carrie Bradshaw, because I do think that those types of women need to exist in these types of shows, because that's who we're seeing. That's who we're getting angry with, is ourselves.
Yes.
We have to be the window into this hilarity of the show. The clothes and the makeup and the lighting and everything is larger than life. there has to be someone that keeps it grounded, which was a little not as fun for me to play, but I knew my role in that world, that you have to see yourself in my eyes in some way.
Right. But with Sophie, I think this signals a shift, whereas like I think Sophie also exhibits that same sort of behavior of like doing bad things, and yet I think people are more forgiving towards Sophie. Now granted, Carrie is a character that's existed for decades and Sophie's a new character, but I think that's really interesting in the fact that like, and again, I think it speaks to the written character, your performance, etc., but that you have someone who is perhaps an unlikable character, and yet I find her really likable, and I don't know. I don't have a question per se. It's just an observation, but I'm wondering how you feel about it.
I completely agree, and I think as a society, I welcome and hope that we're past the trope of the female protagonist needing to do all the right things and being really likable, and she's the girl next door and everyone likes her and she's always doing good for everyone, baking cookies and not sleeping with the guy. That's just not real life, and I do think that as I hope we can, not have to have a boring one-note character like that. And the morally gray area is something that I really respond to when I'm looking at my characters is, are there like peaks and valleys to what their decisions are, and are they learning something about themselves, to which now in season 2 I get to be a completely different type of woman, that the cage is unlocked and she is not as high-strung because she's in fear of her own self. I think that's what I'm really excited to play.
I think where we left off with season 1 of Hunting Wives, it invites a season 2 organically, because there are questions that need answering, as well as the fact that just characters that I want to see the continuation on. Let me also ask you, in the sense of you talked about not doing a conventional press tour, but you kind of did this like post-mortem press tour, if you will. And there's the desire to say, well, they're so great on the show, let's make them, we want to see them together off the show. And and there's a whole fandom of people who analyze literally, like if Mullen puts her hand around your waist during a red carpet interview, everyone's shaking. Is that weird at all for you to witness sort of the attention that seemingly inconsequential things now take up?
I mean, I do think that it's pretty cool that people care that much, A, but B, I think that people are sort of looking to make sure that the feeling that they've felt during the show exists in reality and isn't something that they've conjured or like cultivated in their mind. They're making themselves feel safe by, I see this thing, is it right? Am I okay by this feeling that I'm having about these people? And I guess to get like psychoanalytical about it, which I'm sure is not really that big of a deal. But I think that also in like the brass tacks of it all, you just want to make sure that we all get along, because that just makes for a better TV watching experience. And I do think that all of us girls really do get along, and Mullen and I are genuinely best friends now. And I think it's just kind of cozy to, I get really upset that Carrie and Samantha don't necessarily get along. Like that worries me. I do think about it a lot. So I think that people want to make sure. Yeah, I want to know.
I want to fix it.
I want to fix them. I know, but you know what? I see both sides. I do.
No, but it is interesting, because I think what you're bringing up is like, I think there is ultimately a desire that I think something that Hunting Wives ascribes to, which is that though it ultimately doesn't matter, you can have a horrible working condition and create an incredible product. I think there's a desire these days within fandom to enact the idea that they had as much fun making this as the thing itself.
Definitely. I mean, it's sort of liking it back to my Sarah Michelle Gellar run-in, where like you want to meet the person, you want to see what they're like so it can feel complete in your head in some way.
Yes.
And so I love that people love that from us and want that from us. I mean, that means that we're doing a good job, or else no one would care.
Totally. No, I mean, people care. So you have this new miniseries, The Beast in Me.
Yes.
Co-starring Claire Danes. There are many projects to list in her illustrious career, but I'm going to say Claire Danes of the Family Stone fame.
Oh, yes.
Just because one of my favorites. It's the holiday season.
I know. Her hair is so good in that movie. It's so silky.
Good in that.
I know. I watch it all the time.
So we've got Claire Danes and Matthew Rhys, and then you in this project. This project is This project is produced by Jodie Foster and Conan O'Brien.
I know.
Now,
Yeah.
but I have to say, finding out Jodie Foster was a producer told me that Jodie Foster saw this project and was so compelled by it and said, I want to be a part of this, right? And I just feel like that Jodie Foster stamp of approval says a lot. But I'm wondering from your perspective, what was it for you that particularly appealed about getting to be a part of this world?
I mean, the people involved right away, not only, I wasn't even thinking necessarily, I saw Jodie Foster on the sheet, of course, and that is illustrious, I'm sure, to anyone. But I saw Claire, I saw Matthew, I knew that I could be a part of this sort of like 3, tripod sort of situation. I thought, wow, that would just be such an iconic honor to be able to be in the ring with them in acting.
Claire Danes, Matthew Rhys, Brittany Snow. Trifecta. And you play the ex-wife of Matthew Rhys's character.
Yes.
And we have Claire Danes' character who, there's a murder.
Yes.
And Claire Danes' character, I believe Matthew Rhys's character moves in down the street.
We move in down next door to Claire Danes' character. He is a real estate tycoon, and he might and might not have murdered his ex-wife, the wife before me.
I was going to say not you.
Not me. And Claire Danes is a very prolific author, and she is having writer's block. She doesn't know what to write her next book about, and so she decides to write her book about Matthew Rhys and this sort of mystery that's surrounding his ex-wife's death. And as she starts to write the book, things start to get unraveled, and I have my own nefarious things that I'm doing and not doing. And I think what's really cool about this show, to speak to things that we were talking about earlier, is that all of these characters are very ambiguous when it comes to their moral compass, and they have a lot of gray in them, and you're not really sure what they're up to, and everyone has this very primal need to stay alive and to survive in a lot of ways, and it sort of asks a lot of questions about what you would do to survive in a situation like this.
I can't wait to watch. Okay, 2 last questions. We evoked Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Sex and the City. We have yet to evoke my 3rd favorite television show. And I'm going to mention it because it co-stars one of your co-stars, Malin Ackerman.
Yeah.
And that is The Comeback.
Yes.
I have to ask, Brittany Snow, have you seen The Comeback?
Well, I got it.
She's got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just had to ask.
Yeah.
Because I remember one of my access points when I was first watching the show that made me so excited obviously came in with a lot of context to you and your work. Of Malin's work, I am such a big Comeback fan. I'm always thinking about Juna Milken. And so immediately, I think it's in episode 3 or 4 of Hunting Wives when
she calls me baby girl.
When she calls you baby girl.
Yeah.
And I was like, this feels like
full
a nod.
circle.
Yeah, like this was important.
I hope it was. We didn't even speak to that, but
You didn't.
But I'm honored that was maybe what she was thinking. She didn't tell me that. She's been in so many things that I obviously have watched and grown up with, and so. Yeah, it's very cool to get to watch her because I'm a fan of hers, and of course from that show, I think that was like one of her first things that she had ever done, and she's so beautiful and cute. I mean, talk about being the archetype of like the young, naive girl moving to Hollywood. She did that so well.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful that maybe we'll see her on season 3 of The Comeback. We'll see. Okay, last but not least, John Tucker Must Die. There has been conversation for quite some time, as recently as March 2024, about the existence of a script for a sequel.
Yeah.
Has it crossed your desk at all, John Tucker Must Die 2? Because I do feel like there is room for where these characters are at now.
So Ariel Kebbel, who is a friend of mine, obviously she played Carrie in John Tucker Must Die, and so she was really spearheading getting this off the ground. I do think there was conversations about it. I know there is a script, but I don't know if it's done or real. I'm not sure. It's sort of in the ether, but I'm not really sure that's a real thing.
It's like one of those things where like it exists and it could happen, but there's not a timeline for it to happen. So we don't need to have like the article being like Brittany Snow talks possible John Tucker Must Die sequel. That kind of thing.
I don't know if it's like a green-lit real thing.
Right. So it's like we can keep hope alive in the sense of like there's nothing to tell us that it's not going to happen, but we just don't need to like there's nothing.
I hope it does. And I told Ariel from the beginning, I was like, get me in there if you want me to. I mean, it would be too much pressure to direct it, but I wanted to maybe add my 2 cents a little bit to the script of making it a little bit more updated. And we said a lot of bold things back in the day, especially with, feminist rage.
Fuck yeah.
And so to bring that back and to have it mean something now with everything that's already happened with the movements that we've had, and how many girls have banded together on this problem with fuckboys. We have a new set of things to explain. So I don't know if that was what the script was about, and I'm hoping that it makes it a little bit more relevant.
I like this. Okay, last but not least, we had you singing in Pitch Perfect. We had you singing in Hairspray. If we were to get another musical film adaptation starring Brittany Snow, is there something that comes to mind? Because I like when you sing.
I'm glad you do, because I don't.
Why not?
I don't really like singing. I'm too shy. It brings up a lot of anxiety.
Okay, so maybe we shouldn't do a movie musical adaptation.
I feel like I want to dance again. I love dancing.
Okay.
And I do like lip syncing too. Being in the booth and getting to do the whole pop star thing in the booth. I'm never going to be a pop star. There's just absolutely no way.
Okay, so acting, dancing, singing.
Put directing and writing above all those.
Okay,
yeah.
Oh.
Well, not above acting, but I definitely don't want to sing anytime soon.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. With the writing, directing, I mean, obviously you've now done feature films before. Do you think there's another project that's in the... I mean, I'm sure there's a project down the line. Is there something that's currently in the ether that you're incubating in any sense?
There is, and there was. I was attached to direct a project that now is being pushed, obviously, due to Hunting Wives. So I'm still producing it and trying to figure out when I can direct that, because I really do want to direct it again. So that would be really fun.
Isn't it so wonderful that your career is in a space where you want to write and direct this follow-up, your next feature film, and you're delayed right now because the work is so plentiful that your schedule simply doesn't allow?
Oh, hell yeah. That did not happen. A couple years ago, I definitely was in a place where that was not the case. I've had many people tell me that wouldn't be the case. So that it's very gratifying and very cool.
Yeah, life is funny.
Yeah.
Life is good.
I know. It really is. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Such a pleasure.